Warning, the following podcast may contain strong language. Hello and welcome to today's podcast with me, Luke Fletcher, and today's panel consists of Matthew Wright, James Fox and Alex Roberts, open brackets, Tony, close brackets. Today's podcast is going to be on the film industry. Does anyone have anywhere they want to start?
Well, as someone who's obviously been studying film now for about 5 years, I can say that it's a very sort of ruthless industry, but it's also a very creative industry, because if you look at people have made careers off literally making like YouTube videos, which is media. You can also have it where people literally just specifically make music videos. Some people who don't ever make a career out of it, but just make short films for their own sort of pleasure.
Anyone have anything to add to that?
If you want to go mainstream, there's a lot of just... It's tooth and nail. You've got to be willing to fight to get to where you want to be. There's no easy way to it. You've got to be willing to work stupid hours just to get there.
I think there's too much money in the business. I think there's too much pressure on the directors when you just have to, for film, say you have to spend 200 mil when you can place the same product for about 50 mil. You can get out. I don't understand why so much money's been spent to put too much pressure where they have to make $1 billion.
Budget was going to be something I was going to talk about, such as, do you think actors and actresses are getting paid too much or not enough, or film budgets in general? Do they?
Like I say, the film budgets are just outrageous. Like, if you have to make $1 billion just to make a profit, I think.
Well, my point of view is not just because of obviously being on a film course where you have to, obviously, the money you spend on a film is the money you actually spend yourself. It's not a production company funding your film. But also how I actually saw films before I went into doing like filming was that I've always actually preferred sort of like more practical effects, and I don't think that you need to sort of spend a lot to make a quality film. If you have a really good idea, that doesn't necessarily have to be extremely expensive to portray it. If you look at a lot of modern films now, they'll CGI a crow rather than just use an actual crow, or do you know what I mean? You'll have it where they'll CGI buildings and stuff, but it doesn't necessarily, to me, have to always be like that.
So you're saying that they're using it just because the tools are there?
I think they're spending 200 million because they're given 200 million. Because if you look at, I think they were saying like Superman Returns, they built a whole house for his home. His home was a built set. Like, why can't you just go find a house and like film it there? Like, they're spending 200 mil because they're giving 200 mil.
In 2016 alone, Batman vs Superman and Captain America: Civil War both spent a budget of $250 million.
Which you could arguably say is ridiculous, because with as much as you debate price or not, Civil War, they had like a cast of like 15 main characters, so you've got to think just alone on how much they must have paid the actors.
Yeah, it's just probably
alone. But Batman vs Superman was literally 2 main characters, and still was a ridiculous sort of amount of money.
You look at it, you spend 200 million, and you don't get you don't get your money for value. Like, he got slated. Like, you spend 200 million, and they don't even think about the script. Like, the script is free. You pay your screenwriters, yes, but you pay him nothing compared to the actors, the directors, all the departments. You know what I mean? Like the money, the focus should be. They're so focused on getting things out so quick to make a profit. They don't work out the script, because if you make a script, people are buying it. If you make a good enough story, people will constantly buy your DVDs, your Blu-rays, where you constantly get revenue, and they don't think like that.
Plus, isn't Batman vs Superman like 5 minutes worth of Batman actually versus Superman?
Yeah. And so, even the device to get them fighting was pretty useless in itself. Really, didn't really have a justified fight. Really.
Which all agree that was a terrible movie.
Yeah.
which is bad though, because obviously you can see a lot of resemblance in the film from the source material, which is the graphic novel. And as an avid fan of comics, that graphic novel is actually a fantastic read and a really well built up story. It's not purely just the fact that, do you know what I mean, they're fighting for no reason at all.
You touched on actors and actresses' pay. In 2016, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson earned $64 million for everything that he did, and on the actresses' side, Jennifer Lawrence earned $46 million for especially the Hunger Games. Do you think that there's a difference in?
I think with Jennifer Lawrence, there's a difference. With Jennifer Lawrence, she does a lot of films. I think if you look how many films she's done quite a lot. So averaging it out, yeah, it's probably a little bit less than Dwayne Johnson.
But it's not just films as well. There's other endorsements. There's several people on each list from actors and actors that haven't done a lot of films, but they have done endorsements for.
The problem with that is marketability. It's like they're marketable. It's like with anyone. Like we were discussing, like Tom Cruise. Like why doesn't he ever change his look? It's marketable. Like it's a marketing scheme. They think in that sense. You see a face, people go to see it. Which is kind of old school thinking, to be honest, because if you write a good enough script, write a good enough film, people will come back to your film. The word of mouth will spread, and then you make the money. But it's
going back to like Batman vs Superman. Do you think that the reason that that film was considered a success because a lot of people went to watch it was because of the names involved?
Yeah, it was a simple. People wanted to see a comic book film, which is the heart of this thing, and then you got some good actors as well, can you imagine? But like, the pinnacle of it is everyone wants to see Batman vs Superman. Like, everyone wants to see that fight, see how it's set up and how it goes.
Well, you got to think 80% of that was already a marketed product that already sells ridiculously well in its original format.
Yeah.
But then you'll also have sort of like the 20% that are sceptical about the film, but just kind of want to see how these new actors and actresses portray roles.
Yeah.
I think the scary thing is that not on the Batman v Superman, but aware. Sorry. It's with the Civil War when they did an announcement on just like how much each of the actors are getting paid. Robert Downey Jr. got paid a fair amount of their initial budget just to turn up for the film, and it's kind of if you're paying that much for just one actor who, from memory, didn't do a massive amount in the entirety of the film.
Yeah. Well, it's like he did Iron Man, and then all of a sudden gets paid a ridiculous amount because he had one successful film. It's just
in
like
2015, he had a worth of $18 million.
How do you put that into a film and say this is justifiable? It's just
the problem
I could get someone else who's not even a tenth of that, who could still pull out performance. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I think it's perfect Iron Man, but you're saying there's no other actor out there who's cheaper that could do the job.
But that's the problem, that, as you and were saying before, with people like Tom Cruise, the marketability of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? No one wants to see halfway through a franchise a character change role, because if you look at like with Batman and stuff, as soon as they do it, it's kind of like they'll make a trilogy of films, and then as soon as the character's recast, it's like it starts from number one all over again. So like they're not slowly moving forward, they just keep resetting.
I'm gonna say, Marvel already sort of has swapped an actor at halfway through their runtime, and it was with the actor that played Rhodey. Halfway through the Iron Man run, they swapped the actor out, and we're expecting no one to really notice.
But at the same time, I think that because he's not a major character, people are going to be aware of it, but they're not going to pay as much attention as if, say, Captain America changed the actor. And like, as I said, when you establish these characters, that's why Marvel are tying down actors to like 6, 7 film deals, because they want the continuity, because they've seen from prior films with like the Hulk, they've had to redo that 2 or 3 times. Spider-Man, they've had to revamp that every so often, because you've got to think, to do, say, a trilogy can take like 3 years. It can take a long time, and a lot can change with that. Because so now that they've established their universe and they've got, say, 6 or 7 films going on at the same time, now it's actually more beneficial for an actor to sign a contract with Marvel, because they'll do 3 of their own films, but then they'll make cameos in 4 other films, so they are getting paid exponentially for that additional work. But the drawback is they're then stuck in that role for say 10 years, like how long has Chris Evans been Captain America now? It's got to be about 9-10 years maybe.
Yeah. But I think the actors, it's like any job, like it's a guarantee they've got work. It's like anything, you get a guarantee they're going to work. But at the same time, I think some actors will be like, you know, they don't want to be stuck in that for so long. They don't want to be stuck in that. Like we're saying, like Daniel Craig, if like he's like every so often saying he wants to go. Like right now, he wants to go, and you can't blame him. He's probably been Bond the same amount of time, 10 years, and he's only done a few films outside of Bond. He's stuck that. The only thing that's probably keeping him, he's getting paid so much to do these films. And at the same time, you don't know. You don't blame him. And you don't blame the studio. Imagine they want to refresh it quite a lot as well. So, you know what I mean?
Just to finish up, some of the names on that list of highest earning actors, Harrison Ford was up there for his role as Han Solo in Star Wars.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He's always
Chris Pratt was up there as well.
Yeah.
He's got a film called Passengers coming out
Yeah.
in the upcoming couple of weeks or so.
Is that the one with Jennifer Lawrence?
Yeah.
He's starting to get typecast as like sci-fi
Yeah.
space stuff.
Well, this is it. You see him look the same.
Yeah.
But is he? Because he's going to be a Magnificent Seven.
He's already out.
I would say to an extent.
I mean, but that's completely far shout from Sci-Fi.
And of course, he's got his upcoming sequel, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, coming out next year.
That's a shock.
Leonardo DiCaprio's up there
Yeah.
for The Revenant. They're going to be beginning of the year. Mark Wahlberg's up there. Robert Downey Jr., he had a bit of a quiet year because he's down from 80 million. He was earning $33 million
Poor guy.
this
Poor
year.
guy.
I know, right?
They must be
Vin
devastated.
Diesel, Matt Damon for The Martian, and of course, like I said, Dwayne Johnson is the highest earning.
Just shows you don't need to be a good actor to get paid those.
Can I just ask?
Sign on
how
with
much
Disney. Sign on with Disney.
How much did Harrison Ford make last year?
15 million.
Was that for a Star Wars film, or did he make some else?
I think it was just mainly Star Wars.
He's
Probably
Star Wars,
endorsed.
yeah.
signed on for Indiana Jones as well.
Yeah, Indiana Jones
But he
5,
wouldn't-
yeah. And he's going
Probably
to
wouldn't
be,
have counted for him, that though.
and he's going to be in the sequel to Blade Runner. Blade Runner 2049, I think it's called.
I think for the stories that he got injured on the set of Star Wars probably helped towards that as well.
Well, you got to think
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
He had a bad year last year. He broke his ankle on set of Star Wars when a door fell on his ankle. He also crashed his plane, like his personal plane. And you got to think at the same time he's like 72, I think. But you got to love Harrison.
Let's talk about we talked about comic book films a lot. So comic book films, as well as video games, they seem to be the growing trend of turning other media platforms into films. This year, other comic book films to happen was Deadpool. You got Suicide Squad as well, and like Captain America, Doctor Strange came out, I believe, last month. So yeah, that's the growing trend, it seems.
Can I just start this point off by saying that I think one of the reasons why the transition to like comic book movies is doing so well is you've got to think, because we're in the day and age of reboots and sequels, and the reason why we're in that is because it's already an already established market. That's why I think comic books are doing so well, because when they bring out a Captain America film, a Civil War film, any of these films, there's already millions of fans who already love the character. So they're not taking a gamble when they create these films. So they'll spend 200 mil, which is arguably too much or not, but they already know that the audience is there to see that because they've already got a market for it.
And I think it also appeals to casual fans as well.
You've got to think Captain America is like 77 years old now. Do you know what I mean? So they're not taking a gamble by producing this
I
film.
was going to say, they're also not taking a gamble with the fact that the story's already there. Everything's written for them. Like, they don't have to write too much, and a lot of times, like you say, they base it on a graphic novel. Like they base it off the principal kind of story.
A lot of
it's
time-
off a graphic novel that's already been written because it's easy and it's making a lot of money, and they're going to keep doing it.
A lot of time they'll go off on a tangent and they might only use a tiny part of the graphic novel, but as you said, it's already pre-written for them, so they're not taking much of a gamble by doing it. Look at Civil War. Civil War is already an established, hugely successful graphic novel, which recently in comics has spawned a sequel.
Yeah.
So you already know the market's there.
But of course, you're saying that, but a few of these films didn't quite make the cut when it came to scores from online journalists, especially when you go to sites like Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic. For example, Suicide Squad was one of the most highly anticipated superhero films of the year, but that didn't do so well. It didn't do so well on Rotten Tomatoes, which was 26% score. They got The Guardian gave it a 2 stars out of 5, and Metacritic gave it a 40. So
I've got this, guys.
Yeah, you sure you got this? Yeah, I know you're very passionate about this.
The problem is, as a fan myself, fans are very fickle. So fans who go to see the film will already know the characters, and there is the fans who want to see exactly what they already know, and then there are fans who are okay with interpretation. But when you have something like Suicide Squad, which was hugely anticipated, people who I've spoken to that are comic book fans just weren't interested, because when they drastically change a character, it's not the character that they were told it is, if that makes sense. So for example, like, my personal opinion is, I happen to really like Deadshot as a character within the comic books, but when I watch the film, it's not Deadshot, it's Will Smith as Deadshot.
but do you think, like,
That's
with-
marketability, though, isn't it?
I was going to say, because the chances are that in a few years' time you might be reading it and going, he's going to get a spin-off, because that's just how it works now. Harley Quinn is getting a spin-off.
Just because it makes money. Like, a comic book, anything comic booky now just makes money.
But at the same time, as much as I agree with you, you don't need marketability when the market's already there.
Yeah.
You don't need
But
to add. You don't, in all
Yeah.
fairness, you don't need to add big names to these films, because the character is what matters. If you look at the original Judge Dredd film, when Sylvester Stallone played it, fans hated that film because in the comics, Judge Dredd never takes his helmet off, but in the film, he had it off for 3/4 of the film. Now, if you look at the more recent Carl Urban Judge Dredd film, he specifically said he was a fan of the comic books, and he said he was not going to remove his helmets. And as much as that film didn't have as big a budget, might not get a sequel, that had a better fan sort of appreciation for it, because it stuck to the content that it was meant to be. You don't need to see the man under the mask, because it's not about the character under the mask. You're portraying a character, and it shouldn't be the actor is portraying the character, it should be that the actor embodies the character and is that character for the duration of that film. Will Smith will still promote the film before and after the film. Why in the film does he need to be playing himself rather than the character that he's being paid 40 million to play?
Yeah. Well, I think it's always been this problem. There's fear in the studios. They're spending so much money, they won't ever take risks, and that's the problem. And that's what these reviews are about. People not taking risks. And I think the problem with Suicide Squad is it's cliche after cliche. People have seen it. You're doing it. Like, you compare it to Deadpool, and it just changes the game. And everyone's word of mouth, everyone's talking about it, You watch the trailers and everyone was going crazy because they knew there was something different than they'd seen. You go see Suicide Squad, you know exactly what you're expecting. You get a piss poor bad guy you have no touch with. Like, you look at Winter Soldier, one of my favourites, great bad guy. Look at even the Civil War bad guy, and I thought it was great because he was just a human being who knew he couldn't face these superheroes, so he went another way. He went psychologically, made them fight each other. And to me, that's more engaging.
So you're saying they're too safe?
They play everything too. Suicide Squad is pinnacle of what they play in safe. You know what I mean? Like, they try to make it likeable. They try and, and like I said, the bad guys, you just don't ever feel interested. I don't care about them. It's the ultimate bad. They're going to destroy the world, and then somehow the heroes, prevail. It's just, you know what I mean? There's no nothing to keep you intrigued.
Because the only difference that they had was obviously is that they took the bad guys and made them heroes. It does seem because.
But there was an ultimate bad. There was that's why.
But
as well as
that, I was watching and I was thinking, this is just kind of like a placeholder film for the Justice League film that's coming out next year.
Yeah.
Because they had all these little Easter eggs in there. There was the Flash who made a cameo. There was Batman who made a couple of cameos throughout the thing. The Joker as well didn't have as much, even though Jared Leto's part as the Joker was very much praised and was very much looking forward to seeing, he didn't have as much of an impact in the film or as much on-screen time in the film as probably people were expecting.
Well, it's a problem, like, it's the Iron Man 2 syndrome, where it was like half the film, right, was them promoting Avengers. Like, half the film was these, oh, we found a hammer, you know what I mean? Like, there was cues all over them, but were trying to form it, rather than then actually tell their story. They had to, it was getting distracting people by going, oh, there's this, and by the way, we're going to make a Avengers film. It's like, we know we're going to make a Avengers film, focus on your story, and that's exactly the same thing. It's just too many little...
I want to go on record and say I actually really like Iron Man 2. And if you look at...
I don't.
A few years prior, DC made an animated short called Assault on Arkham, which followed the Suicide Squad, and that did hugely successful. Yet a few years later, they then make a film, but the problem is, rather than sticking to the source material and making slight tweaks to a character, they end up changing things. Yet if you look at Marvel films, and you look at the fact that you know who all of the actors are, bar Robert Downey Jr., and the reason Robert Downey Jr. purely was sort of chosen was because of his panache, do you know what I mean? Tony Stark is an extreme playboy. He's a bit of a dickhead.
Oh, he's perfect for a role.
But he suits that role perfectly, because, in all fairness, Robert Downey Jr. or Tony Stark is going to have more of an appearance in a film than Iron Man is. So even when you see in Civil War, Hulk fights Iron Man, a lot of the shots are going to be of Tony Stark within the suit, because he is the poster boy for the Iron Man character. So the Marvel characters portray the role that they're actually playing rather than being the actor portraying it. I'm not saying that everyone has to go and get extremely buff to play a role and stuff, but they're doing a lot of dedication to embody the character that they're being. And DC just don't seem to be able to do that at the moment.
That was my problem with Suicide Squad just in general. I didn't go and see the movie when it came out because I was worried it was just going to turn out how it did.
Fake fan.
Where
He's a fake fan.
Yeah. I was expecting it to be Will Smith plays Deadshot, not Deadshot played by Will Smith.
Did you see Deadpool at cinema?
No.
Fake fan.
I'm also broke most of the time,
Did you see X-Men Apocalypse at cinema?
No, I didn't.
Fake fan.
That movie wasn't good either.
Did you see Batman vs Superman at cinema?
No one should
Yes,
see
I did. I saw it with you.
Oh yeah, you did.
But what I'm saying is the fact that with their casting and the way that they did it, I was from the get-go not sure how I felt. A lot of what they did graphics-wise, where it was the pop colours, it was the bright, and the fact that they were showing off a lot of the comic book area can have its darker moments, which was sort of ticked off by the way that Deadpool went, where it was an 18. We can prove that this, as an 18 film, can still do well, even though it's cutting off a decent amount of their market, which is the relatively younger audience. And that's sort of what I expected to come from Suicide Squad, but that just didn't happen. And from what I've heard, because I've still not seen it, most of the people have said it was not good.
Well, it's just...
Hold on, so you just had all of that spiel and you still haven't seen it?
I got around to it. That's what I'm doing over Christmas.
Fake fan.
Well, it's like...
I thought
The problem with 18 films,
I
right?
saw Arkham long before.
The problem with 18 films, the studios don't think enough people will see it because it's 18. They want to market it to as many people as possible,
Yeah.
so they won't do it as much. But then the funny thing is, and they kept cutting, slashing their budget, kept doing it, to the point where that final scene was meant to be a gunfight, and then they did that scenario where he lost all these guns and he didn't have him on him. And
he's
it's
talking
just,
about Deadpool.
What did I say? Yeah, I'm talking about that. Cheers. Thanks.
It's just because it was on that Suicide Squad, then you went on a tangent without actually saying you were about Deadpool.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for it.
You didn't actually say what you were talking about. You just went off on a tangent.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Deadpool. But no, like you gotta say that the studios won't market to. They want it like 12A, don't they? Realistically, they don't want to market to 18 and then limit their profit.
But at the same time, for characters like Deadpool and for the new upcoming Logan,
Yeah.
they're now establishing an R rating.
Really?
Apparently, I was making a point that I'll now have to correct to justify. Hugh Jackman has agreed to take a pay cut so that the film could be an R rating.
Oh, right, okay.
But to my original point, they're now starting to establish, because as I said, they have to portray a character the way they're meant to be portrayed. So a character like Deadpool is a very violent character. A character like Wolverine is a very violent character. If you have them where they're not killing, not maiming, not hurting people, you're technically neuting that character, and you're not portraying them as they're meant to be portrayed.
We also discussed video games also being turned into films as well as comic books. Warcraft this year is probably one of the biggest video games turned film. Anyone seen or go into that kind of universe?
Warcraft now.
No. But also in previous years, you got Doom that was very old.
Doom is amazing.
Until the end there.
And then that was like
Was that
remade
having a
this year.
film or was that just a game?
I know
thought it
we're
was a game.
recording.
Game and film.
Alright.
Just in the smoke and air outside.
This guy, unprofessional.
Well, while he's doing that, I'm going to talk about the Assassin's Creed movie.
Oh yes, that's what I was going to say, because that's
I'd
coming
say that
out
was gonna
in
come.
the
It does
beginning
look
of
pretty
January.
good, and it's different to the source
That
material.
was a conference call. I was talking to Stanley.
But it does look good. The film looks good to say what they're trying to do with it. I've still got sort of holding reserves and all that, but it does look decent to say what they're doing with it.
What are we talking about?
Assassin's Creed, the movie.
Just ruining it.
That looks really bad.
Have you played the games?
I love the games.
What, Assassin's Creed?
I enjoyed the games
It's part.
till about the third one.
My issue is,
Get with
look
that.
at Prince of Persia.
Okay.
That's where I'm worried about, is it could be like that style of thing. Because obviously, Prince of Persia was for kids, but it had very dark undertones. Especially if you look at number 2, the Warrior Within, I think it was called, and the whole time he's being chased by something called the Dahaka, which is trying to kill him. Do you know what I mean? And it talks about how the sands are actually this really deadly force and that they shouldn't be messed with. You're messing with unearthly things. And Assassin's Creed is very much the same thing. You can understand where the game can be enjoyable for young audiences, but when you get down to the thick of it, it's a very violent game and you are essentially killing people. And I just think that if that's not done right, the
Wait,
film...
you say it's targeted for young people. It's 15, isn't it?
Yeah, 15.
No, I mean, but do you know the way the story's told?
Yeah.
It could have been a lot more violent than it was.
Yeah.
To say that the concept is that you're killing people, but I'm just hoping that the film stays to the roots. And as much as I know they're going to have to explain the mythos of the storyline and what everything is, the animus and everything, I hope that that doesn't get bogged down by having like a Michael Fassbender there. That's another example where I think I wish it wasn't a big actor I knew of, as much as he still might prove me wrong.
Well, I was looking at the trailer. It seems like a lot of what's called the running. You know, the running. Like he's not going to be doing that. So you imagine like it's going to be intriguing to see how they kind of pull off that.
An example that I think of that actually reminds me of Assassin's Creed is there is a French film called District 13.
Yeah.
And there is a guy in it who's a free runner, and then you have his partner's like a martial artist. And obviously they both have scenes that tailor to their specific style. So you'll have like a massive free running scene where men are chasing it. And that's kind of what you want. You don't want an actor that is going to detach. So
Yeah, because you're not going to see his face when he's running. Like
Yeah.
you're going to be. It's going to take you away straight away.
They've done some like promotional stuff for like the guys that are doing the free running for him, and those guys are decent because there's an entire bit where he's running to the set.
I know
It's
that's
like-
not
it's
our
like-
argument.
It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
saying
yeah,
they are
yeah.
good. Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily
But it takes
need
you
to
out.
be a big
Yeah.
famous actor. When to me, especially when it's something like Assassin's Creed, which is like the comics we spoke about, they're already established markets. They've already got the fan
Yeah.
base there.
You can
don't
have
need to
anyone.
chuck
It still
in a
makes money.
big
Yeah.
name.
The name alone sells it, right? You could put anyone there. Hey. You put anyone there, and it will still sell. Like.
We're now joined by 2 new members. State names?
No.
Emily.
I don't know if like that. So we've talked a little bit about media, social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. They promote
Never
everything.
mentioned Facebook or Twitter.
I just did.
That's what I mentioned. It just now.
Oh, okay.
They play a massive role in promoting movies. But of course, like YouTube, for example, the society out there can like or dislike movies based on their trailers. How big of an impact does the media, social media have, and also on trailers as well?
Well, trailers are shit, let's be fair.
Yeah.
Modern trailers reveal way too much about the film. A prime example of that is Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
That
Show the
revealed
whole thing, didn't you?
Yeah, basically show the
revealed the
whole
whole
film,
plot to the film.
Yeah.
Film should just have a teaser trailer that is a bit more than a teaser trailer, and that's all they should have. They don't need 3 trailers. That's just pointless.
You see, like Christopher Nolan's films, like when he does trailers, they're
Apart from Guardians of the Galaxy.
yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 trailers, that just got me excited.
Yeah, but if you look at Dunkirk,
Yeah,
trailer
Dunkirk,
for that,
yeah, fantastic.
That's enough to
Fantastic.
make you want to see or not. If you need to see more than that to decide,
But even like in Guardians, you don't really know what it's about. If you knew nothing about
no,
it.
it's because it's out of context, though, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you don't know what comes before and after that scene.
But with
so that's
Batman v
fine.
Superman, you could probably piece it together. If you
That
like works
literally
hard,
reveals
probably
who the
piece it
big
together.
enemy is, who you didn't even know was going to be in the film, and it just goes through the whole plot in like 2 minutes before you even see it.
Well, teasers is one of my favourite trailers, just because like The Shining has one of my favourite teasers. The elevator scene, just full of blood, pours down, and that's it.
It just needs. A trailer needs to be enough to show the audience what the film is and what genre it is, and that's enough.
Well, we're
Especially
talking
when-
about the name alone, like Assassin's Creed or like that, and it's like Batman v Superman. You have to show nothing. Like people are going to see it. Like why are you showing
Big
so
blockbusters,
much?
you don't need to advertise.
Anything with a big name already, you don't.
But then
You don't need to sell.
If you look at like the
people.
Deadpool trailers, that didn't give anything away either.
No,
It
it's
was
just
like,
a lot of its jokes. You know, like some of its jokes. You know.
Then again, Deadpool was fantastic with its promotions
yeah.
because a lot of them were nothing.
or even like I can't remember which Batman it was, but when like the Harvey Dent things, like people were like,
Oh, that was for
is that Dark Knight?
Dark Knight, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
they were
cool.
giving out I Believe in Harvey Dent
Yeah,
badges,
yeah, yeah.
And no one was accepting them because they didn't know what the fuck it was
Yeah.
about.
And like District 8 was it District 9?
District
District
9.
9.
Yeah, that they were on like phone box saying no humans allowed, no
Yeah.
aliens allowed, and stuff like that. Like, it's better than just.
The
Yeah.
thing is, though, some films are actually really good where if they're set up for really good promotion. The Purge would have been a fantastic example. If they'd have done a lot more promotion for The Purge, that would have been phenomenal, to be fair, to say that, do you know what I mean, what the premise for the film actually is.
But I think like the social media aspect, it's just half the time you don't see it. Like I mean, unless you like the page of the.
I was gonna say, you see them, most of the time you see trailers now it's on Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because TV is
Or somebody shares
not
it,
many
but
people
yeah, yeah, like
watching TV. Yeah.
like you see it at cinemas, but like social media,
It's
unless somebody mentions it, if
expectations,
somebody
though,
goes to me, my mate goes, "I'll watch this trailer. I'm gonna watch it." Like, that's the time
It's
I watch it.
expectations though, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like you see the Passenger trailer all the time.
Yeah.
Because they're expecting it to be a really good film. Hunger Games, they did the same with that fucking pile of shit.
Put that in.
Every disclaimer at the beginning.
Hunger Games
Okay.
is shit.
Spoilers and swearing.
You quite like it, didn't you?
Yeah,
It's a rip-off of
What?
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale's better.
I've
Yeah.
not seen it.
Oh, you need to watch Battle Royale. You need to watch Battle Royale.
Emily's now leaving the
Sweet.
You touched on violence before when we were talking about Assassin's Creed, which is the main bulk of this podcast. So, violence, is it too much? Is it overused? Is it effective if it's done right?
Films need violence, like with things like Walking Dead. If it wasn't as violent as it is, then it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It could. It was good. But then, like some films do take it overboard.
It can be. It's, we were talking about Quentin, and it's just like it could be over stylized. Like
Yeah, but
there'll be different aspects
but
of
then I
violence.
suppose, but you've got the other side of it. You know, Saving Private Ryan at the start, like the beach scene of that.
Yeah.
Like, that's just portraying what actually happened.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
like,
Like it's realistic.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
The thing is,
but it's
though,
meant
my
to-
opinion is
it's
violence
like
is
guts
always
in it.
worthwhile as long as it
People fight.
goes with the concept
Yeah.
for,
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
idea. If it
If
doesn't
it's
suit
pointless
it,
violence, yeah.
if it doesn't suit it, then it means that violence ends up taking over what the point. Like
Yeah.
as an example for me is the later Saw films.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like to me, the original films had a really good
Yeah.
concept, and then the later films is just more about the violence.
Yeah,
than
it
it
was
is
torture
actually
porn
about
by
the
the end. It was
story.
just
Right, to me.
It was the name it was given. Okay. Torture porn. Hostels and stuff like that. But no,
Yeah, I think it's if it's within context of the storyline. So like The Walking Dead, you look at stuff like Purge and stuff, which is about violence, it makes sense. But if it's not and you overuse it, it can overcloud what the
But-
concept for the film
But of
is.
course, like things like visual effects, sound effects have to be used effectively.
Well, of course, but,
Yeah.
but it depends on what you're trying to capture. Like if you look at the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 90% of that soundtrack is a woman
Yeah.
screaming.
Yeah.
But it suits that style of film because it's.
But you've
meant
got to think
be-
about the time zone as well of that.
that film's like, I don't really like. I don't think it's that good, but it's good. Do you know what I mean? Like, for what it is, it's good. But
The problem is,
story
though, is it's looking in context as well, though, isn't it? Because, like, as an example, I know it's not violent, but you look at, like, the reactions of The Exorcist when it first came out. Yeah, if you tell someone to watch it now, they'd laugh all the way through because, like, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? But it depends on the context and at the time that you do it. Some films can just go way too extreme.
But it's like, you know, Paranormal Activity, where it's just like CCTV footage of a pan, like a frying pan doing that, and you're like, they're just shit.
So that's the thing, though, in films like that, you need to make the actors react like it's realistic. Like, I can't think of the name, but there's a really good one where it's literally, it's more about like a piece to camera where this brother, something happened to his sister, and he's just slowly going more and more mad as he's retelling the story because he gets arrested for her like murder or something like that. But it goes through it, and obviously as he gets more paranoid, he's setting up like strings on the ground with like little bells on them to try and capture what happened. So that one's actually a really good sort of thing.
I think like you can, I think even like when you're watching the films, like even the just sounds and not actually seeing the violence, sometimes it's more violent because there was a quote like of a Guy Ritchie was saying on Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, people perceived the most violent scene was the one where the guy's getting his head smashed in, but you don't ever see it. You just hear the sounds and just see him moving like that, and they conceive that as being the most violent scene, even though you've seen people get blown like shot or blood everywhere.
It's like,
it's in people's interpretation.
You watch Layer Cake where he puts the iron on it.
Yeah.
You don't really see much, do you? You just see
it's your mind. You know, you've seen before what it's leading up to, and then you see it, and then you hear the sounds, and then it was like Psycho. Don't see any of that. It's just the music. Yeah.
It depends on how it's portrayed, though, because if you portray it in a comical way, that automatically detaches from the violent. If you do violence where you don't see it, that still arguably detaches it from you. Do you know what I mean? It depends on what film you're going for and how realistic you want it to feel.
I think we've been
good input, James.
Yeah.
The closest to input I can really put into this is the what's already been mentioned, the Tarantino, how he takes violence and that's just over dramatic to an extent.
Yeah, it becomes comical.
It becomes comical with the fact that the heads just literally explode.
Yeah.
And then what I keep coming back to in my head is the fact that it's the bit in Amazing Spider-Man 2 when she's falling. He tries to save her, and it's just that one side of her head hitting the concrete. It's meant to be quite serious, but to me that's always been quite funny, just because of how it's the noise she makes when she hits the concrete.
Yeah.
It's meant to be serious, and it doesn't feel serious.
But it was a really serious scene.
I know. It's
it
the
was
sound
portrayed
effects.
really seriously.
My terrible sense of humour then, but it's always been one of those. The sound effect to me just brought me out of it.
Then we come back to the torture. This is where it stems from.
So, sticking with violence, we talked about sound effects, visual effects. Do you think like some films are possibly age-rated not enough or too much for certain films?
It's really interesting because I like I say when I was a kid I watched Terminator 3, like, and there's like that one scene where she's back in the police car and like rips through like his whole body, his hand, and then she starts driving with it. That's a 12A. That's a 12A. Like,
The thing is that the rating system's actually really fickle because the rating goes up depending on how often something is used. So like if there's violence and swearing, but it's excessive use of them, then the rating goes up. But if it's just one scene, it's generally not.
I told you the other day as well that they have to like balance it out. Like kids' films, you can have like when someone dies, but you can balance it out with the moral, it brings it down. Whereas you look at things like Deadpool and stuff, there's no moral in that or anything. Hence why it's an 18.
And it's always up to interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know when, like you were saying before, when you watch something and then when you rewatch it as you're older, you actually get a joke that you didn't get because it's subtle in there for adults that people wouldn't always get.
You can always argue that with like The Walking Dead or something, because it's like there's violence. It's like obviously like the episode that was on last night. There's violence in it, but it's not supposed to be good or bad. It's meant to be seen as like excessive and like not reasonable.
Well, yeah, because when like you look at Walking Dead, the violence is actually character driven. 9 times out of 10, it is to represent the state of mind of a particular character at that point in time. Like with the one with Daryl earlier in that episode, that scene itself actually tells the audience what state of mind he's in at that time.
Just off topic, really quick. How bad did Negan look that bit?
Yeah, that's how he looks in the comics. He's got no beard in the comics.
We're putting that in there.
We just have a Walking Dead podcast.
Well, the idea was to go on to do a TV one, so I'm sure that will be in it.
Right, so what's next? Well done
Um,
again, James.
coming towards the
I've
end.
not seen the
Coming
Walking
towards the end.
Dead.
'Cause- have you?
They reference something that you've seen that's really violent.
Yeah.
What's
Oh,
the
I
most
like
violent
murder porn. You can't, that's the issue.
Yeah,
Maybe one time.
No, actually, a really good example. Do you know when you look at stuff like Midsummer Murders and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
They actually have quite violent
Yeah,
like,
deaths and stuff.
deaths in them, but because they're such a small part of the show, and it's more about him capturing them. Do you know what I mean? That technically, I'm sure that's pre-Watershed as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like anybody
Daytime
can watch
TV,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how it's played as well. Because like with things like The Thing, where it's not a person doing the violence, you've got something specifically. Yeah, I can see the face he's pulling.
Have you seen The Thing?
I watched it with you.
Oh, plot twist.
Oh,
Well,
I've seen
that's-
Class.
The fact that it's not human, it's not something that to an extent can be controlled,
Fantastic
makes
Four,
it that much worse in a sense.
I think it can be
Hold
the
on,
same
hold
as...
on, hold on. So you think that when it's not something that's real, it's worse?
Okay, I'll lock you in a room with Negan, and then in a separate occasion, lock you in a room with the thing. Which one are you gonna be more afraid of?
Neither, because neither of them are real. But what I'm
No,
saying
I'm-
is...
hypothetically, though.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is that you look at, like, Friday the 13th, you look at Halloween, you can detach from them because it's not realistic. But you watch something like Scream, I know it's dated now, but you watch something like that, and that can actually happen. So it means people can't detach as much because that's just an everyday guy wearing a mask. And Wes Craven is phenomenal for stuff like, because if you watch the Screams and stuff, they even talk about it in the very first film, when the mask is left, they reference that it's just a mask you can pick up from any
store,
like Halloween store. And when it's realistic violence and something that could actually happen, for me personally, that's the stuff that freaks me out the most, because it could actually happen.
I mean more on just like the level of body horror you get out of it, like.
Yeah, but I watch a film about some fucking alien,
Yeah.
and I smile and carry on. But you watch something where a dude knocks on someone's door, stabs everyone in their house, that can happen.
Especially with a sack. Especially with a sack off. He loves the sacks. But I think also, like, you can, like, say, like, if it was you had two violent scenes and the person receiving the violence was a bad guy,
Yeah.
it'd be totally different if it was a good guy. If it was a good guy, everyone would perceive it as
But that
really
also
bad.
but that also depends on how they're portrayed, because if you look at Walking Dead, especially in the books rather than the show, no one person is arguably portrayed as a solid bad guy.
Oh,
You
yeah,
actually
yeah.
see the human side of them, and we've spoken before that if the story followed Negan and you were seeing Rick attack him, you'd think that Rick was the bad guy.
Then it's little things you see, like Negan go in that episode last night where it's like, Carl came, machine gun down my man, and I brought him back for you and made dinner.
Yeah, you
And
see
it's
that
like-
he is a bastard, but you also see that the world has turned him into that.
But then you see, if he was like as bad as like he's made out to be, he would have just killed Carl on the spot.
Well, look at some
He's
of the
not gonna-
things
he's
that
gonna
like.
want to, like get his
So I think it's more
I think-
power play.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, look at
Because-
some of the things that Rick has had to do to get to Alexandria. If he wasn't portrayed as the good guy, you wouldn't think he was a good guy.
No.
There are scenes in that. There's that particular scene when it was earlier in last season when he's in like that RV and he sees a guy walking and he just shoots him with the machine gun. He doesn't know he's a bad guy, but he's in that mindset now because loads of people have attacked them. You just presume everybody's an enemy. So do you know what I mean? It's very fickle on what is portrayed as good and bad, unless it is Stonewall good and bad.
Yeah.
But seriously, you think aliens are freakier than like real life? No, I'm
Honestly, from my personal perspective, I don't find serial killers and stuff like that as scary as the things that go bump in the night. That's just my sense of paranoia, though.
What
I've
about, when you
always
watch,
found-
what about when you watch a murder documentary? Do you not think that's like really freaky?
Not really. That's
Really?
not. That's
Yeah, no,
for
but
me.
serial
Though.
killers are real.
Yeah, that's the point, though.
That actually happens.
For me,
That
because
should be
I'm
scarier.
twisted up in the head and whatever, I find the things that just can't be
That's
explained,
James.
the things that are just.
No, like, do you know you hear those
Yeah.
stories like the uncertainty where like old ladies, like someone knocks on the door and then beats up an old lady and like nicks her money and stuff like that. I think that, to me personally, they freak me out because they could actually happen. As in when you watch something that's very like The Fly, The Thing, as much as I love The Thing, can detach from that because it's not real. Even when it's played, like Troll Hunter is a phenomenal film, and one of the reasons I like it is because even though it's massive trolls, it's played as if it's real. They go the extra length in the film to make it seem real. But you can.
Just as happened.
True. But you know what I mean? There is a level of detachment from that because you know. But when it is something that can actually happen,
It's scary,
or more likely to happen,
Like, so when you go on Netflix and you watch a serial killer documentary, it's shit short, doesn't it? When it's just like some normal guy who just.
that's what I mean. Do you know when you go through the story and it says, oh yeah, the guy had like a wife and 3 kids, and then one day he just snapped and killed them all, and then killed like 7 people?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's the unknown is freaky. Don't get me wrong. But
Gives
there's
you the
more,
possibility that it could be anyone.
but there's more chance of a serial killer knocking on your door than an alien coming and taking you and probing you to do you get what I mean?
I don't know, it's just always been the way I am.
Maybe you've just had an alien probe you today.
I think
That's what's happened to you now. I don't know.
Have you seen dead people?
Yeah, maybe.
Do you want to talk about remakes?
Oh, mate. This is going to be a good one. We'll let Matt talk about this one. He's got loads of that shit.
You'll probably have a lot more information on me about remakes. But the main one this year was, of course, Ghostbusters.
I refuse to watch it.
With a twist of it being a female cast, which for me did not attract or detract anything away from the original thing. It was just...
Don't get me wrong.
I'm a feminist, but I think it was done for the sake of having a
Yeah, it was like look at women,
Like, it wasn't needed. Like, Ghostbusters is like
wasn't
a
it?
cult film. It was not needed.
What's the geezer who plays Thor called? Is it Chris or Liam?
Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, like, didn't he play like the bumbling, like, nerdy
Yeah,
guy?
he played the Office dude.
And it's like, you're not an office nerd, mate, you're Thor, come on. I know it's meant to be empowering women, but don't put Thor behind a desk, come on. It's not how it works.
So again, we go back to actors playing the right roles, or in that case, the wrong
Well,
role.
it's like Melissa McCartney, that fucking knobhead. In everything, she just plays a fat woman who falls over. Basically,
That's because she's fat.
Yeah, but-
She's not playing a fat woman. She is a
Yeah,
fat
but
woman.
have you ever seen a film where
No offence.
You ever seen something with her in where she doesn't fall over or do a comedic like sort of like?
But that's what she does. She's
But that's
a
not Ghostbusters,
comedic
is it?
actor.
She's basically like the modern day Dawn French.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not Ghostbusters, is it? That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah, but I suppose they were trying to revamp it, I suppose, weren't they?
yeah, the revamp.
I know it
In all
doesn't,
fairness, I
agree.
can't think of any good remakes.
If anything's had Bill Murray in it, doesn't need remaking, no.
Evil Dead heard was pretty good. Evil Dead.
It's not a remake. It's made by Sam Raimi.
Oh, is it
It's made by the same. It's practically a sequel, but it's remade by the guy who created the
Yeah.
original.
Oh, okay.
So all he's done is done a more modern take on his own film. But if you look at shit like Jumanji, that looks rubbish.
Yeah,
I was going to say that coming up in 2017, we got Jumanji with starring The Rock.
I love the
Yeah,
Rock, but I don't think
Yeah,
it's remake
Dwayne
it.
Johnson's amazing, but
Not a remake Jumanji.
that's what I mean. You don't need to
Next
remake
we're gonna have like
film
Flubber being remade.
But you got to think though, they remade Ghostbusters, and that lost like 100 mil. That's because it doesn't need to be redone.
But they're still going to remake stuff.
But they sort of did like
I know
a
they are
sequel.
because they think that it's a shoe-in.
Well, they basically
Yeah, I
did a
think season
sequel
money.
/ remake of Independence Day, didn't they? I know it was meant to be a sequel, but it's exactly what happens in the first film.
I haven't seen it.
Well, it's like basically everything's all Dan fine and dandy.
Of course.
Then they come back, what are we going to do? We're going to lose. And then they win. Just like the first one.
Yeah.
It's not got Will Smith.
Remakes, I
Make it
just
a
don't see the point. Really do.
It's just
Does anyone know any good remakes?
I'm trying to think of one and I can't.
It's like they're remaking all the Disneys into live actions now.
Yeah.
They should not do that.
Technically, Dread, which is one you mentioned, is a decent
Dread's a
remake.
Went Into the Woods one.
Into the but it was shit.
they made Jungle
Yeah.
Book, haven't they, with the real
Yeah,
kid
that
and that.
was-
and
No,
Cinderella.
that seemed alright.
I haven't watched it.
It
It
was
does
actually
look
alright.
alright.
It was actually alright.
No,
Idris
now
Elba in it.
apparently they're doing Lion King
Yeah,
as well.
they're doing Lion King. Don't know how they're going
I'm
to do
more
that.
good about Beauty and the Beast, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking monster. Such a knob.
But like, why? Well, they don't need to be making. They make enough money as it is.
They do. They really do.
And the whole point of the cartoons
Sorry,
is more...
Luke.
It's okay. I
Cartoons
was
are more
checking.
magical, aren't they, than real things anyway?
Just. Then again, I personally prefer cartoons to then the Pixar CGI stuff. Don't get me wrong, I do like some of them, but it doesn't capture the magic, I don't think, as much as cartoons do.
Yeah, but you look at the old Disney ones, they're all like hand-drawn and stuff like that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but do you know they're all like really nice tales about like princesses and stuff, and then you got shit like Cars,
Mate,
which is
Cars
about
is
cars.
sick.
Cars is
No,
a
it's
sick film.
It is. It's so good.
Shit, it's so obvious as well.
Yeah, but it's for kids. It's not meant for people our age.
Yeah, but I still watch Disney films now and love them.
Yeah, there's some good Disney films. Like,
But that means, arguably, then we can say the same about all the new remakes. They're not really for us; they're for kids.
No, yeah.
So we shouldn't have them.
But then
The
they're
remake.
from our
yeah.
our era.
Why would you be
know what I mean?
making a film not targeting the original audience? Like,
Yeah, but it's not going to be for the original audience. It's to recapture the magic
thing is,
of the kids who liked them
Has
prior.
anyone watched the new Jungle Book? Have you watched it?
I watched Jungle. Yeah.
Is it like trying to be like a bit dark and a bit?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
I mean,
Yeah, it's dark. It's dark, but I
You want
think
Baloo singing bare necessities, don't you?
No,
he sings it like once.
But you know what I mean. You don't want like a dark, like sort of. Oh, it's a bit.
Yeah, no, but the original,
Bit edgy,
the original Jungle Book was dark.
But not like.
I know, but all of them have a hint.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's a hint.
I think in
The original Jungle Book, that like scene at the end where his tail's on fire and stuff,
Yeah.
that's a really sort of dark setting.
But I mean, in
isn't it?
terms of like the set, from all the trailers and
Yeah, no,
stuff
I've
I've
got it
seen,
in
all the
face.
lighting's really dark.
You've seen Disney films, right?
Yep, I've seen most of the Disney
But
films.
about to say you said probably the least, and these two have been here less time than you.
Yeah, well,
What's your favourite Disney film?
favourite Disney film, Emperor's New Groove.
Oh, that's crap.
I love that film.
It's not
Yeah,
a
but
classic.
it's not-
It's not a
Oh no,
classic,
one of
Disney.
the classic ones.
No, you just said
Yeah,
in general.
well,
Any
in general.
any Disney.
How can you love something like that more than like Aristocats and stuff like that? Disney films make
I
me
like
fall in
I
love
liked
with
the
music,
film,
mate.
but it was one of those.
Thing is, that
If I'm picking my favourite, it's the Robin Hood one, and that's
Which
purely
is
because of
called
my
Robin
last
Hood.
name.
But did you see like?
So good, he can't remember.
Did you see like you know 101 Dalmatians?
No, what's that?
No, but you know Disney apparently like I watched a thing on it. They were losing loads and loads of money, and then like did that hand trick. You notice it's a bit different. It's a bit more like
Yeah.
rougher and stuff.
Yeah.
They made that like really cheaply and really like then it like revitalised the whole.
But you got to think that the main premise is literally just white with black spots. That must have
Yeah.
been easy to animate
But
compared to.
even that film, that's got like a woman who wants to kill puppies in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure Disney's got a
Yeah.
dark undertone to the
Mine's always
movies.
got to be Lion King. Enough of that is my thing.
The thing is, that, but Disney have had the same sort of thing where they try and make sequels to their films that generally fall flat on their face as well. They've made sequels to a lot of films people don't even know about.
Well, you have like little 10-minute shorts, don't
It's like
you?
there's 3 Cinderellas.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. The only one I really like is probably some of the like the second Aladdin sequel.
Yeah.
The second one itself is crap. You don't watch Disney films.
Shut
so
up.
you're not really useful in this conversation.
No voice, no opinion.
So let's finish then by talking about upcoming films. Immediately this month, we've got Rogue One coming out and Passengers as well. Rogue One, personally for me, looks amazing. I can't wait to go see that.
I'm only seeing it because it's Star Wars, to be fair. I haven't even watched the trailers, I just know it's Star Wars.
Yeah, but a lot of people are going to want to see it because Darth Vader's going to be in it.
And of
You haven't watched
course,
the trailers, have you?
No, I know he's in it.
Oh, sorry.
and of course, in 2017, we got more superhero films. We got the 8th Star Wars film, as well as Fast and Furious 8,
Yeah.
called Fate of the Furious. The remake of Jumanji, which we spoke about. But the superhero films, Guardians 2, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, just to name a few.
Guardians, mate.
All the way, mate, all the way.
Spider-Man I'm excited for as well.
Yeah, Homecoming looks good.
But
I
are
like
you?
how they're not having his origin, like, because everyone's sick of Spider-Man.
And it's got Michael Keaton in it.
We've had 3 Spider-Mans in like how many years? Like, do you know what I mean?
But
Well, the first Spider-Man was 2002.
Yeah, so what, in like
The
15
second one was 2004, 14.
so you both sound confident that Guardians 2 will not be another case of a sequel.
Oh,
That's
no. Even
Guardians 2 has Kurt Russell in it, it's going to be sick as fuck.
And it's got the same director.
Baby Groot.
James Gunn.
It looks
Can't wait
good.
for Baby Groot.
It's going to be amazing.
Even if it's bad, I'm still gonna.
It's not going to be.
No, but I mean,
What are
even
you
if
talking about?
like, but then I'm sort of excited for Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's got Batman in it.
But then it's one of those things you could be that hyped up for it and then it'd be disappointing.
No.
When's the next Avengers out? Is that end of next year? Is that early 2018?
I think it's 2018.
Like early? Because I know they're coming out a year after each other, aren't they?
No,
Like,
they're not
not
doing
anymore.
2 now, it's just 1 now.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
I knew they were
No,
making
because,
Infinity War into one, weren't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm on about.
But I thought they were making
2-parter, yeah.
No, I thought it was going to be 2 parts, and they made it into one because it was apparently too much.
Yeah.
So then they were doing that, and then the year after, they were still going to bring out another one.
I think they have announced for another
Yeah.
Avengers afterwards.
After Infinity War.
Oh, but
Yeah.
But there's not
Because
been
they
a
promised
title
everyone
list
2 new Avengers.
well, I think Captain America's going to die in this next one.
But you know what I mean? Like I said, they promised
I
2.
don't like it. It's so boring.
Bloody hell.
Say they don't, because they
better
obviously they
say
said to everyone there's 2 Avengers films coming out, everyone get excited. They
I
can't,
didn't even know there was.
but I mean, obviously from a fan's point of view, money wise, you can't go, oh, we're just going to make one. Do you know what I mean? Even if they make one and scrape one together and have Robert Downey Jr. for 10 seconds, do you know what I mean? People will still go and watch it and get an Iron Man outfit from the shop, won't they?
Sure.
Any final thoughts?
No.
You bet.
Any thoughts at all?
No.
No.
Like less than like 18 rated.
No, I'm good.
Great.
Great, so thank you for listening and see you next time.